A loving husband and a talented screenwriter answers a phone call and rushes out of his home in Baltimore, never to be seen alive again. Later, his lifeless body is found in a conference room at one of the city's hotels. Despite the years that have passed since Rey Rivera's death, almost everything about this case remains a mystery. From how he ended up at the hotel and why he died, to the cryptic note he left behind on the day he vanished, one that may point to an ancient Masonic order. And after Netflix featured this case in a documentary series, the wildest theories began to emerge. So who really called Rey that fateful day? What message did he hide in his final note? And who was Porter Stanberry really? A murderer or Rey's most loyal friend? At 6'5", nearly 2 meters tall, and weighing over 250 pounds, 113 kilograms, 32-year-old Rey Rivera was hard to miss. Young, attractive, and incredibly talented, he was a dream man to many, but to Allison Jones, he was a soulmate. An inspired writer, a gifted screenwriter, and a romantic at heart, he moved to Baltimore just to buy his beloved an engagement ring. I truly believe he was my soulmate. He was the guy I saw in my dreams. I can't exactly explain what drew me to him, but that's how it was, says Allison. Rey and Allison met at a bar in Los Angeles in 2000 and started dating soon after. By 2002, they had moved in together while Rey was working as a screenwriter. But in 2004, Rey accepted an offer from his childhood friend, Porter Stanberry, to join him in Baltimore as a copywriter and editor at Stanberry & Associates, a financial publishing firm. He wanted to make enough money so we could get married. He wanted to buy me a ring, recalls Allison. The couple relocated to Baltimore in 2004, where Rey began working on a newsletter called The Rebound Report, which focused on stocks that were struggling but had potential for recovery. Still, Allison admitted this kind of work didn't suit her husband. He didn't like working a 9-to-5 job, and he didn't believe in what he was doing, she explained. So in early 2006, Rey decided to move back to Los Angeles and planned to sell his screenplay titled Midnight Polo, a story about a young female polo player who rises to compete in the Olympics. But strange things started happening that spring. The couple visited LA to plan their move back, but when they returned to Baltimore, Allison noticed something had changed in Rey's behavior. He became anxious, an unusual trait for someone normally so confident. That's when it all started, Allison recalled. He began going everywhere with me. He wouldn't let me do anything alone. Though the couple had always been close, Allison noticed Rey had grown abnormally protective. She remembered how, about a week before he disappeared, she wanted to go jogging on a nearby road. Rey insisted on going with her. I told him, Rey, it's fine, but he still wanted to come, she said. While she ran and he sat nearby reading, a man appeared. Allison recalled that Rey looked terrified. Although the mysterious man left without incident, she said her husband's face was filled with fear. Then a few nights later, their home alarm went off. Rey jumped out of bed in a panic. When Allison found him in the basement, she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before, pure fear. The alarm triggered again the following night, and once again Rey was shaken. After Rey's body was found, Allison told police about what she believed were possible break-in attempts. But detectives told her the alarm may have been set off by squirrels. They came a week later and dusted the doorstep for prints, Allison said, but they told me it was probably just a squirrel. She wasn't convinced. You'd have to push the door for the alarm to go off. I don't think a squirrel could have done that. Despite this strange behavior, Rey never told his wife what was bothering him, if anything truly was. On the day Rey disappeared, May 16th, things weren't normal either. Allison was headed on a business trip to Richmond, and she remembered Rey was working on a video project for Stanberry, a freelance job he had taken after leaving his full-time position. At some point that day, Rey left the house with his keys, phone, $20, and a credit card tucked into the pocket of his shorts. He left in a rush, without saying a word to the family friend who was staying with them at the time. Allison Rivera never saw her husband alive again. After about a week of frantic searching and growing media attention, Rey's car was found in a parking lot near the Belvedere Hotel. Just hours later, a former colleague noticed a hole in the roof of the second-floor conference room, a discovery that led police to Rey's body. Rey Rivera's body was found in a locked conference room inside the Belvedere Hotel. A hole in the ceiling and his injuries suggested he had fallen from the top of the hotel, 14 stories above, and crashed through the lower roof. After her husband's disappearance, Allison checked Rey's office. There, she found a small note taped to his computer. She immediately recognized it had been written the day he went missing because she discovered torn scraps of it in the trash. The FBI deemed the note highly unusual, but concluded that it was not a suicide note. It was addressed to brothers and sisters and referenced a well-played game. The note mentioned several already deceased people, including actor Christopher Reeve and director Stanley Kubrick. It also contained a long list of people Rey knew, some family, some friends, and included a strange request to make them and himself 5 years younger. Allison found it odd that other important names were missing from the list. What was even more intriguing was how the note introduced the idea of Freemasonry into the case. Its opening and closing lines contained cryptic phrases associated with Masonic rituals. Curious, Allison searched one of the sentences online, and the results pointed directly to Freemasonry. Rivera's family and friends claimed his interest in the Masons came from their reputation for secrecy. But according to media reports, his fascination ran deeper. It was revealed that Rey had spoken with a Maryland Mason about joining the order. Just days before his disappearance, he had been reading a book titled The Builders about the Masonic order. And on the day he vanished, he bought Freemasons for Dummies at a local bookstore. Ever since Netflix aired an episode on Rey's case, amateur sleuths have been captivated by the mystery. One of the most recent theories connects the young man's death to the film The Game by David Fincher, in which the main character, played by Michael Douglas, falls from a rooftop in a way eerily similar to Rivera's case. The 1997 film follows a man caught in a reality-blurring scheme, culminating in his leap from the top of a building through a glass roof. The theory suggests that Rivera may have attempted to reenact events from the film. This theory draws a connection between the note left after Rivera's death and his fall, which was initially thought to be the cause of his demise, although the medical examiner ultimately classified the cause of death as undetermined. Internet sleuths noticed that the game was mentioned in Rivera's note. However, the note also referenced the Freemasons, family friends, as well as films, television shows, and books that Rivera enjoyed. The theory gained so much traction that one of the show's producers, Terry Dunn Muir, addressed it publicly. "I talked to Allison Rivera about it," Muir said. "She spent a lot of time with that note, as did the FBI, trying to determine if it contained any clues. She doesn't find the movie The Game relevant at all. She told me I know where every part of that note came from. What I don't understand is why they were all combined into this single letter. If Allison can't figure it out and the FBI can't figure it out, I'm not going to pretend I can." A recently released video, left out of the Netflix episode, suggested an even more bizarre theory, that Rey had been dropped from a helicopter. "I know it sounds crazy," said investigative journalist Stephen Janis, "but this is one of those cases that forces you to consider even the most far-fetched ideas. We don't have solid evidence, but given the hole in the roof and the fact that no one saw him enter the building, he had to get there somehow." Harry Shivers, a former hotel employee, agreed. "That's the only explanation I can imagine," he said. The new video raised questions, especially since no one reported seeing or hearing a helicopter. However, a woman in the area might have heard something. Author Makita Brotman, who was so deeply affected by the case that she wrote a book titled An Unexplained Death, The True Story of a Body at the Belvedere, lived in a fifth-floor apartment with windows facing the very rooftop where Rivera's body was found. She wrote that she heard a loud crash that night, but assumed it was just another city noise. Still, she made a note of it in her diary. Police investigators did ask some hotel staff if they had heard anything, but they didn't go door to door. Perhaps they should have. Brotman became increasingly obsessed with the case, partly because her apartment overlooked the crime scene. She watched investigators and forensic teams from her window. Once the police left, the scene wasn't even sealed off, and she was able to walk right onto the rooftop. In her book, she notes the hole in the roof looked stranger from the inside. It had damaged beams and a portion of the roof had collapsed. As for the helicopter theory, Brotman added that Stanberry had once flown to Rey's wedding in Puerto Rico on a private helicopter. Also, helicopters are common in Baltimore due to the city's major hospitals and high crime rate, so most residents wouldn't notice one flying overhead. Still, Detective Michael Bayer dismissed the idea. If you had someone in a helicopter and wanted to get rid of the body, the harbor is just 30 seconds away. Why drop it on a hotel roof? Rey's family even checked with air traffic control. There were no records of helicopters flying in the area that night. Skeptics, including professional detectives, also questioned whether Rey could have physically made the jump through the roof. There were 3 possible launch points: The main rooftop, 14 stories high, the parking garage, or the 11th floor ledge. The first two were either too far or too high to be feasible. Engineers estimated that in order to reach the hole from the rooftop, Rey would have had to sprint at 11 to 15 miles per hour, 17 and 24 kilometers per h, and push himself outward with perfect precision to travel the required 45 feet, about 14 meters. The 11th floor ledge was only accessible through a guest room or office. None of the hallways led there, and even if that's how it happened, no one reported seeing Rey. That alone is suspicious. After all, Rey Rivera was a strikingly tall, athletic man who played water polo in college and stood at 6'5", 195 centimeters. He was not someone you'd easily forget. "So I just can't believe it," said his brother Angel. Rey was someone people noticed. How could he walk into the hotel and no one remembers seeing this tall, attractive man? It's impossible. What made things even more mysterious was that the rooftop security camera wasn't disabled, but malfunctioning. Hotel staff said someone had configured the hard drive to continuously overwrite footage. So by the time the police needed the videos, the relevant footage had already been erased. Other evidence didn't make sense either. For instance, Rey's glasses and phone were found in perfect condition. The force that killed Rey caused devastating trauma to his body, so people were shocked that neither his glasses nor his phone had a scratch. Many began to believe the scene was staged and that Rey's body had been placed beneath the hole in the roof. Medical examiner Melissa Brissell also told Allison that the way Rey's shins were broken didn't match a fall. Even the autopsy report partly supported that suspicion. It stated that although the injuries were consistent with a fall, the circumstances surrounding the incident are unclear, and it is unknown how the decedent came to fall from such a height. The cause of death is classified as undetermined. Another major theory involves Rey's work for Agora Inc., which included the Porter Stanberry Company. Rey wrote investment newsletters predicting stocks that would soon rise. But according to media reports, he was unhappy with the job. Some stocks he promoted never recovered, costing investors money. Even before Rey was hired, Stanberry's company had already been under investigation. The firm had been ordered to pay $1.5 million for spreading false stock information and misleading investors through newsletters. Stanberry denied all accusations. Rey's brother Angel speculated that Rey may have angered someone powerful who lost money after one of his publications. Porter Stanberry, born in 1970, was Rey's childhood friend and a known financial writer and publisher. Although their life paths diverged, Porter didn't want to lose their friendship. He convinced Rey to move to Baltimore with Allison to join his company. Today, Porter still lives in Baltimore and remains the founder of Stanberry Research. He also edits the online magazine American Consequences, launched in 2017. In the Netflix documentary, Porter was never directly accused, but viewers were strongly led to suspect that he knew more than he was saying. The night Rey disappeared, he had answered a call from work, but the caller's identity couldn't be traced because it came through a switchboard. The show also claimed Stanberry issued a gag order to his staff, preventing them from speaking officially about Rey. Lastly, Porter refused to comment publicly and directed all media inquiries to his legal team. This silence made people suspicious. Only in 2020 did Stanberry finally speak up. He called the Netflix show misleading. "The reason I never commented publicly," he said, "is because I never believed there was a mystery surrounding Rey's death. He insisted he had done everything he could to help. It's horrible. You can't imagine what it's like to tell people I had nothing to do with my friend's death." When Rey disappeared, Porter claimed he hired a private investigator, offered a $1,000 reward to anyone who had seen Rey, and personally helped in the search. When the body was found, Stanberry said, "We were heartbroken and shocked, but once we saw the financial pressure Rey was under, it didn't seem so mysterious anymore." One Reddit user suggested an unusual theory. Rey's death was an accident. According to this version, on the evening of May 16, 2006, Rey exited All Bar through the back and walked toward a side stairwell leading to North Charles Street. Part of a decorative element fell on him, shattering into pieces after hitting metal bars and then the concrete floor. The room where Rey was found did in fact contain lots of plaster, even though the roof he supposedly fell through did not. Rey's phone and glasses were completely undamaged, even though the fall was from 46 meters, about 150 feet. His Sanyo phone with a glass screen and his plastic frame glasses showed no signs of impact. The location of his personal items near the hole was also suspicious. His phone, keys, sandals, and glasses all had different weights and centers of gravity, yet were found grouped near the hole, which wouldn't happen naturally in a fall. The size of the hole was also strange. It indicated Rey had to fall straight down, either feet first or head first. He was described as broad-shouldered with a narrow waist. A free fall from 46 meters should have made him fall head first, but that didn't match his injuries. Even if he managed to control his body and fall feet first, his legs would have shattered from the impact, and the body likely couldn't have broken through the metal components of the roof. As for the mysterious note, some believe it wasn't related to the incident at all. One theory claims it was a draft of a ceremonial speech Rey wrote while preparing to join the Freemasons, who traditionally include such phrasing in their rituals. If that wasn't enough, there's more. Terry Dunn Muir, a producer of the Netflix series, revealed that someone had shown excessive interest in Rey's computers after police took them. When Allison went to the station to retrieve Rey's computer, a detective told her someone had called multiple times, insisting on getting access to the machines. The level of interest in Rey's technology deeply disturbed Allison. And then there was the coin. After Rey's body was found, investigators discovered a small coin in his pocket. Allison had once gifted him the coin. She found it on a business trip, and it had a heart cut out of the center. "Whenever you need me," she told him, "just hold the coin and you'll know I'm near." He usually kept it in a bowl on his nightstand, but on that day, it was in his pocket. Why? Did Rey sense something terrible might happen that day? Did he know someone was after him, but didn't know how to protect himself?